Hey everybody, Mark from Northeast Bass Fishing. How's it going? I went fishing on Thursday, the last nice day we had because it's rained here now for 2 days straight, but we needed it, so I'm glad we got some because we had like 2 or 3 weeks with pretty much nothing and really hot weather. So I didn't have as good a day. Well, I shouldn't say that. I didn't have the numbers that I had the time before on Tuesday when I went out, but I did catch bigger smallies, no largies, and about 1,000 rock bass. But I put a clip together. I only did like, video of like, 3 of the fish I caught. So I put those together. So it's like about a minute or two. You guys will see that. So this is just the intro. Then you'll see the video. And then I'll show you guys what I was doing. I'll be back. Hey everybody, Mark from Northeast Bass Fishing. I'm at a different lake today. And first smallie of the day. I had a really nice one on a jerkbait that got off. And I just found my first bed that was an obvious bed. Threw the Tech Ned down there and he got it. I'll keep you posted. Out. Hey guys, Mark from Northeast Bass Fishing, and today's been tough. It's been tough. It's been windy and it's been cloudy. It's been hard to see beds, and a lot of beds haven't had anything on them, but I just got this guy. This is a nice one. I don't know what he weighs, 3.5, 4 pounds. But he's a nice one. Just hit that, just trying out these Zoom Neds. And I had never thrown them, and I forgot all my other Neds at home, so I figured let me give it a try. And this honker bit. And I was just I'm just around an island. And the strange thing is, I don't know if the fish here have really moved up that much yet, believe it or not. And the water is, what, 69, almost 68 degrees. And I haven't seen a lot of beds. I've only seen a few. So, I mean, it's a very deep lake, so maybe they're just finally starting to move up. So I'm gonna keep looking for them. I'll keep you posted. But this is a nice one. Nice chunker. Well, guys, I started throwing a fluke around, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this big honker nailed it. Another solid 3+, 4 smallie. Nice one. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I know it was just short, but I don't think you need or want to see videos of like 1.5 pound smallies. So I showed you videos of the 3 nice ones, nicest ones. I actually had another nice one on a bed, and I did a terrible attempt to land the fish, and he got off. So that was totally on me. I went out to a new lake, a lake I was at once before up here since I moved up here, and I had fished it once early in the spring. The water was freezing still, and I didn't catch anything. So I wanted to go back and see if, like the other lake, if they were spawning or if they were up. And the minute I got there, I noticed there's like no beds anywhere when I first started fishing. But then I started seeing like these nice smallies kind of cruising along the shoreline. Now this lake is like 100 feet deep in some spots. So my guess is that maybe they're just kind of starting to kind of move up, and I'm just starting to see them there, the ones I saw. So I started off and I was throwing a jerkbait, and I get nailed, and there's nothing there. All of a sudden, a nice big smallie comes flying out of the water. So I don't know if he had a delayed reaction to hitting the jerkbait, but he totally didn't get hooked up. And then he jumped out of the water. So I don't know, unless he was just chasing another bait and it just happened to happen at the same time. And then as I started moving along the shorelines, I started seeing these big smallies. And I would throw like my Ned rig by them, and they just weren't interested. They were just kind of like meandering around. So they certainly weren't up on beds. I guess maybe they could be already done and maybe be post-spawn. I don't know. Like I said, all these lakes are new to me, and I'm still learning them. My guess is they're just kind of the big females that are kind of waiting to get up there. As I started to go down the shoreline, I did start to see a couple beds. And then I go to grab my Ned box and put a new Ned on, and I realized from the video I made the other day, I left all my Ned boxes down here with all my TecBait Neds in there. But I did have one tied on. So I flipped it on the bed and caught a smallie. It's the first one you saw, 1.5 pounds or maybe 1.75 pounds. I don't think it was even 2. But just to get the bait into that bed took forever, because every time I throw it down, it would get swarmed by red eyes. Swarmed by it. And you'd see the smallie come in and chase them away, and then he'd kind of like meander off the bed a little. I'd throw back in, and the red eyes would come. I think I caught 2 red eyes before I finally got it in there. He came in and scared them away, and then he ate the Ned. So I did then find, a few beds here and there. But it was slow. It was slow, and I was just kind of looking around and looking, and I would see cruisers every now and then. Couldn't get them to bite. And then there's an island on the lake, and I really went to the island just to see, because I knew that there was an eagle's nest there, and I figured I'd go check it out, fish around, see if there was any beds around the island. There was nothing. And after I saw the eagle and I went all around the island completely, I came around the back of it and got out of the wind. That was another thing. The day on Tuesday when I went out, sunny skies, winds were there, but didn't really hamper, the visual of bed fishing. Here, the wind and the clouds made it tough, especially in a lake I don't know that well. Like, you'd see things you thought were beds, you'd get up close to them, and all of a sudden the clouds would come over, the wind would start blowing, and you weren't sure. And then a lot of times I get to them, and you get to it, and it's not a bed, it's just a light spot on the bottom. But I get to the island, and I come around the island completely, and I'm just kind of taking a break, having something to eat, and I throw the net out, and I get nailed. And it's a nice 3.5, 4 pound smallie. I was like, oh, okay. So this lake has bigger fish than I found the other day. I'm just not catching any numbers. I mean, I've seen them, but I'm not catching them. And so I wanted to try the other side of the lake. And after I caught that nice one, I worked the island a little more, nothing else. And I wanted to work shallow. I started throwing flats, the flat slap around, the square bill. I was throwing a spinnerbait around. Nothing. But I'm going to try not to watch the hockey game. Toronto, Montreal are playing right now in the playoffs in Game 6, but I'll try not to watch. What was I going to say? And I was throwing a spinnerbait around because the wind was howling, especially when I got to I guess technically it would be the east side of the lake. Wind started ripping, and I couldn't see beds if there were any. And I'm throwing a spinnerbait, nothing. I'm like, guess this is just going to be a blah day. And then as I went up, I started to see a couple beds. And then I caught another one off a bed. I saw another bed, but there was nothing on it. And then I wanted to go back over to that other side of the lake that I'd started on and see if maybe now, later in the day, the sun was out more. The sun was on that shoreline better, at a better angle for me to see visually. And I went over there, and all of a sudden those ones I saw cruising, they were gone. So I just kept going up the shoreline, catching rock bass after rock bass after rock bass. I started throwing. I decided to tie on a fluke, and I had a zoom fluke, a white one, and a chartreuse one. And I was going back and forth between the two colors. And there's a pretty good sized cove in the lake, and I went in there. And then there's a back bay part that I didn't even know was there. And I went back there, and I saw all these fish cruising around, little smallies, some decent smallies, a couple largemouth, panfish, all sorts of, cruising around in the shallows, but nothing would bite. And then I went out into the cove, and it was shallow. Like, I had to actually pull my trolling motor because I was going to hit the bottom, and I would have hit the bottom. But then it kind of went, once you got past the middle of the cove and went in the back, all of a sudden I found like a 5-6 foot like channel through there. And I started throwing the fluke through there, and I see this smallie come up, and he nails my fluke. Nice big, 3 to 4 pound smallie. I'm fighting him. I get him to the boat. He's close to the boat. He pops off. I'm like, oh, crap. The minute he popped off, the fluke was there. He came up and nailed it again and got it. And he was hooked that time. So I was like, this fish really is aggressive. So it's strange with all these non-aggressive fish. All of a sudden there's this one who, gets off and then hits so it was really a great catch that he came back and got it. And he was like the second or third video you'll see there, the third one, I think. I didn't really talk about it in the video. I just took it because there was a couple people on their porch up there on the land, and they were like clapping and going, "Yay, nice fish, nice fish!" So I was like, I'm not gonna film this and talk and look like an idiot out in the water doing it. So it was a nice smallie. And then as I kept going through that channel, I saw smallies cruising around. My guess is that they're starting to move up there, and maybe in another week they may be making beds because they were nice fish. They were nice fish. And then I went out to a point. There was a nice bed fish there that I'd seen earlier that I caught, and he got off. So I went back and I wanted to try to get him again. I caught him this time, and I had him right by the boat. And like an idiot, I grabbed my line, and he went like he moved his head, and the line snapped. It was my dumb fault. I should have just taken the net and scooped him up. It was a nice 3.5 pound smallie. And so that was it. So I probably caught maybe 10 smallies throughout the day, probably 30 or 40 rock bass. Didn't see any largemouth. I don't even know if they're in there. I did see some huge lake trout, like just one after another, schools of them swimming in the shallows in the sun. But they are really skittish. I mean, I'm not a trout guy. I don't know how you catch them in that shallow water. I think they're just up there in the sun, is my guess. But they certainly, and they're moving. They're moving quick. And they were good. They were big. And at first I said, well, that's Smallies. And then when I got close to them, I could tell they were trout. But there's a ton of them around. But I don't know what they eat. Like I said, I'm not a trout guy. But the funny thing was, like I said, I didn't have any of my Tech Neds with me. As I found out later, I was cleaning the boat out. I found a few bags. I could have just put them on. I tried I decided to try the Zoom Ned. I did have some of those in the boat, and I hadn't thrown them before. And I caught that first nice smallie on them. The only thing is they tear up easy. So it would be like one fish, and they get torn up. The only good thing about them is that they're a little longer, so you can kind of chop off that ripped up part and get a couple more casts out of it. So it's not a bad Ned. It's not that durable, in my opinion, but they have some nice colors, and I definitely caught fish on it. So it was good to have that, because I was starting to, I was taking like my Neds that were on the boat that were torn up and putting them on and catching them, but the red eyes were destroying them. Because you could catch a red eye. If you wanted to go there and catch a red eye, you could catch 100, probably 200 if you really wanted to. I got to the point where I'd throw it down and I'd see them all, swim towards the Ned, and I'd pull it up out of the water, so that wasn't helping my fishing either. But they definitely were a pain in the neck. But the big fish, that second big fish, came on the Zoom Fluke, and I switched from the white. This water is crystal clear. I switched from the white to the chartreuse. And if you're in smallie water, and you guys have never tried the chartreuse Zoom Fluke, give it a shot. To me, this is a great smallie bait, even better than the white. Everybody traditionally, I think, likes to throw the white. I switched to that chartreuse, and that one that ate it, you saw him come up and nail it. He even came back and got it twice, after the first time getting off. And I was just throwing that on a 4-aught EWG red hook, Gamakatsu red hook, spinning rod, 8-pound fluoro, and just chucking it out. And if you guys have never thrown a fluke before, you don't need any weight. Just throw that 3-aught or 4-aught hook. I like a 4-aught. I like a little bigger hook. And make sure when you rig them up, you rig them up straight. And when you throw that out, it's almost like you're throwing a jerkbait. You'll get that nice side-to-side action with that fluke. That fluke will just track. It's almost like a swim bait, like one of those S-wavers. It kind of moves like that. It's a great smallie bait. Love the fluke. I always have it on. Once that water gets warm, and that water was almost 70 degrees. Those 67, 8, 66, 8, whatever it was. But I'll try not to forget my my Tech Flukes or Tech Tech Neds next time. I put them back in the boat today, so I didn't forget them next time I get out. I was throwing that Houdini color. That was a good one. I think that's what I caught the big one on. I was throwing their green pumpkin green in the Zoom Beatdown. That's what they call their Ned, the Beatdown. I didn't throw the California one. I have that one. I didn't throw that. I did throw this electric shad a little bit, but I couldn't get anything on it. And the minute I went to that more greenish color, this one was good too. This green pumpkin purple gold in that Beatdown. Caught a few on that. That was pretty good too. So it's not a bad bait. Not a bad bait at all. It isn't that durable, but I can't blame the baits totally on that, because the red eye were just, you catch red eye after red eye after red eye, it's gonna, mess your baits up. So I can't blame the baits really for that. But it was a nice day. The conditions weren't great for bed fishing. Even if the lake was covered with them, it was tough. The wind was really ripping there for a while. And then you'd start to see areas, and this lake, when that sun was coming out, you'd see these big, huge boulders. So I'm looking in the boulders to see if I see any smallies around them, if there's any beds next to them, and then this big cloud would come over, and it was gone. You couldn't, even with clear water, 10 feet down, you couldn't see nothing. So it made it tough. It was tough bed fishing conditions, but as I said, if there were 8 or 10 beds I saw that I could say were definitely beds, that was it. Now, I don't know the lake well. Maybe there's just maybe it's more of a trout lake and it's not there's not a big population of smallmouth in there, but based on the size of the ones I saw and the ones I caught, there's some big ones in there. I'm sure I didn't catch the biggest smallie in the lake. I mean, there's got to be some 4 to 5 pound smallies in there. So I'm really thinking about waiting another week and going back and seeing, just to try to get an idea. If I see more beds, then I'll just know it's a lake where they're late, you know, because of the depth. I mean, 100 feet, you know, in some spots, you know, maybe they just live deeper and it takes them a while to get up there. You know, that water's 68 degrees shallow, but down in those depths, it's, you know, it takes a while to warm up. So, I don't know. Are they done and I'm hitting the tail end of it, or are they just starting to come up there? I didn't see any females on beds. I think the ones I caught on beds were just males that are up there making them. They may be waiting for those females to come up. So, like I said, I don't know. These lakes are all learning experience for me. So, I just wanted to share that with you guys. You know, spring fishing, you never really know what you're going to get from lake to lake. Unless you go to the same lake every day, the spawn is going to happen at different times and at different sections of the lake. And like I said, you know, these lakes are all new to me, so I'm still learning, you know, the lay of the land here. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. So if you're thinking of trying, you know, the Zoom Beatdown, it's a nice Ned. It's a nice Ned. Yep, Toronto just scored. I don't know what the score is. I'm trying not to watch, but it's a nice nice Ned bait. And if you guys haven't thrown a fluke, especially in the pre-spawn, spawn time, it's a great bait. A lot of times I'll throw that when I know there's beds around and I can't really see them, and I'll throw that fluke, and sometimes you'll get them to react to it. And even if you don't catch them, you'll say, well, okay, there must be a bed there, and you'll go over and then you'll see the bed. But like, beautiful lake. What I'm going to do with this video, I already recorded my intro. I'll put the, you know, the couple of minutes of video I took, and I'll do this, and I'm going to end it with just some pictures I took around the lake, because, you know, beautiful scenery, some of the pictures of the bass, and there's a nice picture of the eagle nest. When I first got to it, you know, the one eagle was sitting in the nest, and the other eagle came in and had a fish, and he dropped it in there. I didn't, you know, I just saw that. I didn't get a chance to get a picture of it, but you see the two eagles sitting in the net, one on the limb of the tree, and the other one in the nest. Pretty cool. So I'll add those at the end, so the video will end with the pictures. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Weather's a little lousy. You know, we were at 90, I think, on Thursday or Wednesday, and today was 47 and rainy. So things have changed a bit, but the holiday is coming up. My mom and sister are coming up to the house tomorrow, so I don't think I'm going to fish tomorrow anyway. So next week, if there's a nice day, I might sneak a day in, but I'm going to do some family stuff. If I don't get in on a lake up here, I'm going to go over to my mom's midweek and fish Sagandaga. So maybe I'll have some fish. I heard the fish are on beds there, so I'll probably be doing the same thing, even though on Sagandaga they really love that Kitech. But we'll see what kind of, the lake is full finally. So I'm going to go fish Sagandaga. I don't know what the weather's going to be like, so hopefully I'll get some fish pictures and video from Sagandaga for you, if the weather is good enough. But I'll definitely be there for 4 or 5 days next week, okay? So I'll keep you guys posted on my fishing and where I'm at, and I'll talk to you soon. Mark out.